because we have a broad range of participants, and for anyone that's joining in on the call, for our artist office hours, we encourage you to have your camera on, to ask questions. This is all about, interacting with you, helping you get the most out of your ArtCloud account, or if you're interested in exploring more about ArtCloud. Today we have a special topic. We're going to be discussing what makes a strong online portfolio. So thinking about your audience, and when you're building a website, how do you present your work? What are some tips and tricks and tools to get the most out of a website? I'll go ahead and introduce our panelists for today. One very exciting guest that we have is Alex West, who is our CEO. Alex is joining us from Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you guys for having me. Thanks for coming.
Of course, of course. I'm Melanie Ross. I work primarily with galleries here at ArtCloud. So I'm coming from about a decade of experience with being a director at a fine art gallery. So kind of sharing my input from the gallery side. And then Christina 𝗀𝗻𝗄 is in our customer support team. She herself is an artist and a musician, and she also has experience working in galleries in San Francisco and in LA, and is now joining us from, you're not in Albuquerque, where are you?
I'm outside of Albuquerque, yeah. New Mexico.
Great, great. Yeah. And Laura Michael should be joining us just momentarily as well.
She's here.
She's here. All right, great.
I'm here.
Hi, Laura. Sorry, I can't see all the faces yet. So, yeah, Laura is she's been with ArtCloud for about a year now, but she is taking over as the artist liaison, and she herself is an artist. So she's coming from that perspective, and we're really excited to have her join the team and hear from her today. So Laura, I'll let you take over the screen sharing.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to start here with some basics that all artists should have on their website. So one of the first things that we're going to look at are, your bio, your CV, and your artist statement. And then you can really put this on your ArtCloud website in any kind of way that you wish. It's great to have an image of yourself along with that information, preferably in your studio in front of a work of your art, something like that. But here, this artist put an artist statement up here, and then her bio down here, just kind of, background of where she's from, and a little bit that goes along the lines of how her art career has advanced. And then she has a button that can take us to her CV with a little bit more information about her, or you can choose to kind of consolidate your bio with your statement like this artist did, and it's really nice to keep it concise and short and sweet, and this is something that fans are going to want to see your face and get to know a little bit more about your artwork. It's important for collectors, of course, to learn more about you and see kind of, your education, your background, and where you've exhibited before. Another important aspect to have on your website is your inventory. So that can be archived inventory, as well as newer pieces. So a great thing about ArtCloud is that when you upload your artwork, you can assign it whether it's available, when it was produced, where it lives, and that will automatically update into your ArtCloud website. So here, this artist has her past series available, and you can click on them and check them out. And then she has another tab or another page to show available works. And this is really great, where she's put her title and her medium, the size of the work, and the price. So this is great for collectors to be able to kind of envision what her work looks like and what's available currently and past work that she's done. And then lastly, you want to have your information. So contact information is important so that all these people who come to your website can get in touch with you. So you can create a form on our 𝗏𝗏𝗏 website where whoever is visiting your website can include their name and their address, email address, phone number, and a short message. Or you can also link your social media, which is a great feature of 𝗏𝗏𝗏 as well. And that's super important. Lastly, you can have that information also on your footer, so that it's just really accessible from every page on your 𝗏𝗏𝗏 website for visitors to get in touch with you and see more of your work in these different areas. So that's all from me, and I will pass this on to Christine, who will give you a little bit more information about 𝗏𝗏𝗏 inventory and kind of what it looks like from the back end.
All righty. Hello, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And it's great to be here with this panel and have amazing artists with us as well. So one thing I will say is that artists make the best websites because we have an idea of content and color and configuration. So all of that stuff you can put into your website. So I also like to think about it like cooking. So your header, your page content, and your footer, it's like making the sandwich. So your header and your footer are your bread. You could be gluten-free or whatever kind of bread you like. And then your page content is your ingredients. So we'll talk a little bit about how that can play out over the different pages on your website. Consistency is always nice for the viewer, that all your fonts are consistent. You have maybe, a sampling, a swatch of colors that you use that are representative branding. And legible fonts is just a little insider tip there that we recommend that you don't use anything smaller than 11 point unless you are a subversive artist and you want to make people really strain. And then also in that legibility, testing your website on different devices and different browsers, and just to make sure that everything is guiding your viewer through your website and through your work, through your story, the way you want them to experience it. So that goes with easy to use navigation. Do people know where to go? Having lots of things to click on and keep a viewer engaged is a really sure way to success, and keep people on your website, keep them clicking around and looking at things and guiding them to, the different places, to interact with you. So 𝗏𝗏𝗏 also allows you to create portfolio pages, and I wanted to do a quick demo of how this can work out. So if you work in series, or if you want to sparse out your work by medium or size, you can do that, and in many ways. But I'll show you how you can do it in 𝗏𝗏𝗏. So I'm going to come over here to our 𝗏𝗏𝗏 manager, and I have this is an example account, and I'm going to show you how to create tags on a series of artworks, and then how to translate that onto your website as series. So let's say, for example, that I have a water series, and because there's all this photography, but I don't want the viewer to just see like everything at once. I want to kind of guide them through my story. So in 𝗏𝗏𝗏, you can do batch edits. And you can use tags in various ways for organizing, for finding your artwork. But in this case, we're going to use it to tell the website what to pick out of your inventory and put it on a page. So I'm also going to use this little cogwheel here and select tags so I can see what my tags are. And I click on these little gray dots to change the order. I want to see that first. I also want to see what's on the website. So I'm going to click on that and bring that up here. Okay, so you see that some of these works are already tagged sky series, sunset series, but I'm going to create a new tag called water series. So I've selected these 5 inventory pieces. I'm going to come to this menu up here that says actions, click on that. And from this drop-down list, click batch edit. There's all sorts of things that you can edit here. You could, if you need to change the date on a bunch of different works, etc. But I'm going to add a tag called water series. It's a new tag I'm creating in my inventory. I'm going to review those changes, make sure I didn't make any mistakes. That's 5 items that I'm editing. It's a tag water series. Okay, let's save that and refresh my page. And then you'll see that water series is amended to those 5 works. So I'm going to go over here, click on the website tab, and I'm going to show you how to create a drop-down menu and have your series there listed. So let's see. What we need to do is go to our navigation menu, and we're going to create a drop-down menu. So I click Add Drop-Down. For our purposes, I'm going to call it Series. Oops. And of course, when people are watching, I can never type. Alrighty, so series is the name of the navigation. I can also click and choose what order it's going to show up in my header. And I want to make sure I save my work there. Now I'm going to come over here to pages, and I'm going to create a new page. And I'm going to call it water series. I'm going to add that page to the navigation, and then I've saved my work. Okay, I'm going to come back here to navigation just to make sure I put it in the right place. There's the water series. I want to add it to this drop-down menu here. Okay, I'm going to save that. Okay, so now we need to tell this page what shows up on the page. And right now, this is our example account. We have a header. That's our, like I said, it's our bread, the header and our footer. We can't edit that here, but what we can edit is our sandwich ingredients. So I'm going to put some inventory in here in this water series page. And this is a great feature of ArtCloud, where you can tell this web page what inventory to pull into it. And there's different things. You could say all active, you could do sold items, but in this case, you want to do a tag. And my tag is called water series. Click on that. And there's different ways you can view this work. Right now we have a grid enabled. You could do a slideshow. You could do a waterfall, which bring things together a little bit. So I'm going to save that, save our work. And let's see if we test me and see if I did this right. Okay, so I'm going to refresh this page. All right, so now we have this series drop down. And you can go into that series page. You can view it by slideshow, grid, or waterfall. But this is just a really great way to guide your viewer through your website and make sure you're, again, like we were saying, you're telling your story. What do you want them to see? How do you guide them through that? In this case, we have a page for portfolio that has everything in it. But to keep your viewer engaged, you can create these drop downs and start collecting your artwork and telling your story that way. So design, it's telling your story.
Christine, do you mind showing off the design tab in the website builder as well?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that was one thing we talked about. I skimmed over. So we have our design tab, and this is where you can choose your fonts for your website. And so that goes back to consistency. So we have different options for fonts. And then these are the colors I was talking about, where you can choose an accent color, what you want your body text to be. And so when you go back in to make changes to text and the various things across your website, you'll be able to pull from these colors, so that it'll keep that consistency throughout your website and make it nice and easy to flow through your website. Oh, and then another thing I almost forgot was once you have set that page to pull these items in by tag, for example, now when you add new inventory and you put that tab on it, it's going to automatically update. And so that's one of the nice things about ArtCloud, is that it syncs with your inventory. So it's you're not having to do double duty anywhere. So if I were to add a tab, there's another way to add a tag, is to go into the artwork. Let's say I want a water series Make sure my work is saved. And now that piece will automatically be added to our order series page. There it is. So more time to be in the studio, less time on the computer, unless that's your artwork. So I'm going to stop my screen share. I'm going to hand it off to Melanie.
Thanks, Christine.
Yay.
So I'm here to talk about communication and engagement with your websites. Laura mentioned, ways of capturing email addresses from interested contacts, whether that's galleries, curators, fans, maybe it's your family creeping on. What do you spend all day doing in that studio? So what's the importance of gathering all of these email addresses? So, one thing that you will notice with an ArtCloud website is that we make it really easy to put those embed forms, whether you want to have that in the footer. Like this example, I love 𝗁𝗍𝗍𝗋 has a beautiful website I can kind of give you a quick tour into. She also has the contact page that, lists all of the galleries that represent her with links to contact those galleries directly. And then the ability to, write in with a message to her. So whether she's gathering, people contacting her through the contact page or people signing up through the mailing list from the footer of her website, while she's using ArtCloud, that's automatically going to save that contact information in the CRM or in the contact records of her ArtCloud account. So, here I am in the manager, and, as Christine pointed out, you can add the origin to your list view, and we can see that, all of these contacts came in from signing up on the website, and we see exactly when they signed up on the website. And this might allow you to do something like, let's say maybe they didn't send a contact form, but they just signed up for your newsletter, and maybe you don't have a newsletter planned for another few weeks. So you could select all of those new contacts and then come in and send them an email. And maybe you want to BCC them all and tell them, thank you for signing up for your newsletter. Your website is a passive interaction, and then we'll talk a little bit more in a future office hours about how to capitalize on these engagements that you're gathering. So, one thing that ArtCloud has the ability to do is generate email campaigns, and these can be tied directly to your contacts. So making sure that when you're building a website, you just make it really easy for people to enter their information, and maybe they have forgotten that they did that one time, but then you have a way of reaching out to them on, a routine schedule. So if you're interested in learning more about newsletters, I hope I'll put a little plug towards our October office hours, where we'll be touching on that a little bit more. Something that you might hear in marketing context, marketing speak, is call to action buttons. And just really simply to break these down, it's content intended to induce the viewer to perform a specific act. So typically tasking the form of a directive. So buy now, collect, inquire, all of these different ways that you're giving someone an immediate action to reach out to you or to purchase that artwork. And this is something that you'll notice on all ArtCloud websites, that whether a piece of inventory is available or not, in this case, this piece is not available, but there's always going to be an inquire form. So this can, strike up a conversation with the collector, allow them to, ask you about the availability. Maybe this piece is sold, but maybe you'd be interested in doing a commission, or maybe you have something similar in the studio. Let's see, I know some of these have other call to action buttons. Let me go into another site. Here's another example of a site where if I click on the artwork here, in addition to that inquire or the contact button, there's also, in this case, the ability to collect, which would allow, the user to, purchase it from the e-commerce element of your website. And then another call to action button that you can, include on an ArtCloud website is this make an offer. And this would, guide the user to, put in a reasonable offer, and then, send this to you so that you can, have a further conversation about negotiating, a sales price that you would both be comfortable with. So those are a couple of example of call to action buttons, and how, ArtCloud kind of comes with all of those buttons for your website. So it's very easy to have those set up. Kind of on a different topic, I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of defining your audience. So, one thing that I think would be really important as you're putting together a website is, strategize on who you're trying to reach out to. Are you interested in finding collectors and having them purchase things directly from your website? So, how do you make that really easy to see, what's available? I think a couple of these sites we looked at, the artists have separated out available inventory. And I think, Christine illustrated how it's really easy to set up these, available works pages specifically. So, if I'm trying to collect, if I'm trying to have collectors purchase from my website, I make it really easy for them to see, okay, right now I'm on a page where I can comfortably shop, purchase any of these works, or, maybe you are more interested in attracting a gallerist or a curator. So, having your work broken down into series that, represent your progression as an artist, or the different types of works that you do. So, one thing I would suggest is that as you are building out your website, put yourself in the seat of the viewer. Like, if you want to attract shoppers, what do you want to see on a website? What would make you click to purchase a piece? Or if you want to, attract just fans or gallerists, things like that. What kind of content do you enjoy seeing on a website? This is another example. Carl Ortman has an About Us or an About page, and I really like that on his website, he actually has embedded a video. You can see I'm playing this video directly in the ArtCloud website, and it shows him, painting, plein air painting. So, I think this is a really fun kind of sneak peek into the view of the artist. And it's just something to keep me here, keep me clicking around, keep me interacting with the work. And on the topic of interaction, here's a couple of tips that I would suggest to keep in mind as you're trying to, the objective of your website is to, engage your audience, but also you want to keep them on your website as long as possible. Keep them moving around, keep them exploring your work, interacting with you in this way, so that they're learning more about you. One piece of advice I try to give all artists is illustrate the scale of your work. This was one of the most common frustrations when I worked on the gallery side and I was looking at, artist portfolios. It was very rare that artists would include, the information such as, the size of the artwork. And, this is something that, is just really important to give the viewer a sense of scale. So, Mike Hammer is another artist who has a really great engaging website. And you can see just right here on his homepage, he starts with a view of the studio, and you can really get a sense of like how large these paintings are. I think if you go into, his exhibitions, he's also, included photos of work installed, and, human scale always, makes it really easy for you to gauge, okay, these pieces are large. Here he is in context, to people. I really have a better understanding of the physical sense of this work, since I'm viewing it through a website and not actually getting to, enjoy it in person. Okay. Looks like my computer might be stalling out a little bit. Back to Mike Hammer's website, on his homepage, he actually has a slide presentation of new paintings. So right away, I can see, new work that's in his studio. And another thing that I really like on his website, if I were to click into one of these pieces, see, he's included additional images of this work. So I can get a really good sense of, how it looks like from the side, what the pieces look like up close. His pieces are clearly not flat, and he's illustrating that very well by all of these additional photos that he has included. And this would be another benefit of an Art Cloud website where, as you are cataloging your inventory and updating the database, there is an uploads tab where you can add, multiple images, each up to 20 megabytes large, GIF files, so that those automatically populate on your website. And that's just a great way to, give people a little bit more context about each one of those pieces of artwork. Let's see. I think
It's a good thing that the Google site's down and our sites are still up,
Is that what's happening? I'm like, did I?
No, try refresh. We'll
Did I
refresh
make
it.
a blank page here? Well, let me talk off the cuff. I think I can remember.
Want me to pull up your slide, Melanie? I can pull it up on my machine.
I think the other things that I was going to talk about are the ability to, I think Laura was touching on, the ability to inject like your social feed. We make this really easy to add to the footer or to the header of all of your pages so that, people always have that easy access, to go into Instagram or to Facebook. But another thing that I really like, and this is a beautiful site, Sarah Rackauer, she actually has her Instagram feed embedded directly in her website. And this is a great way to keep her website up to date. So, as she's posting things on Instagram, they're automatically going on her website, so that, if I land on her website, I can jump over into Instagram. I can start following her. She's making the content, in Instagram, but it's also aiding in the, freshness of content on her website alone. Another thing that you should be aware of when building out your site is making it easy to share different artwork. So, let's say I fall in love with a painting and I want to, share this with my friend, suggest it as maybe a gift or something like that. Having a button under the artwork to share, and then, being able to repost it either on social media, emailing it to someone, or even being able to text it directly over to your friends. Hey, I found this, maybe, you would love this, or you've got to follow this artist, some way that other people can be, spreading links directly to your website. Another thing that galleries really saw in 2020 was it became very common to do, virtual installs. And this is another tool that Art Cloud websites allow you to do. So we have what we call a virtual install, or in this case, we're calling it a room view tool. And you can add this to an Art Cloud website. And this would allow, the visitor to your website to click this button, be able to, move the piece around. If they are using, from a desktop computer, they could upload a photo of their room, or if they are, on a phone or a tablet, they would be able to, take a picture of their space, scale the piece, move it around, and save it. And again, be able to, share it, have that image, keep thinking, interacting with that image. Let's see. One other thing I wanted to kind of bring up in thinking about your audience, this artist has, different series that she set up, and you'll notice that she has a page on her website that's all available originals, and this would allow you, to sort. So this is a great example of a website that has been set up with a very shopping friendly interaction. So I know right away that all of these pieces are available. I'm looking at all original artwork. I can sort by size, etc. I can click into these pieces and fall in love. But this artist is also using our additions to sell archival pigment prints. And I think she does a really great job of, don't see what you're looking for, need a different size, contact her. So she's initiating to the shopper that she's really willing, to work with you to do custom works. And then you might notice that, if you come onto any of the pieces on her archival prints collection, if you go to put the piece in your shopping cart, then you would have, different size options with different pricing. So I think this is just a great example of a website that has been tailored more for a shopping collector. So since my Google Docs seem to be crashed, I'm going to let Alex West take over from here.
Cool. All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to come check our webinar out. I'm going to talk about some of the more behind the scenes things that you should be thinking about, or at least just aware of, that help make websites great. So that was Melanie's slide. So Melanie, when we think about what makes a really great art website, there's kind of two buckets that we tend to lump those value props into. The first one is kind of thinking about, once you have a user to your site, how do you maximize the percentage of those users that convert to something, to an inquiry, to an email newsletter sign up, to an e-commerce purchase, to a share. And then the second bucket is, how do you maximize the number of people that find your website? So if you put those two together, then you're optimizing for as many people as possible to your site and converting as many of those as possible to some sort of value, whether it's an immediate sale or whether it's just an email that you can market to over time, that will spread the word about your work or eventually make a purchase. So these are some of the behind the scenes things that Art Cloud does for you to ensure that we're adding as much value as possible. The first is SEO optimization, and there's a couple different things that we do automatically for you that ensure that your site ranks highly for terms that we've seen people search for when they're looking for artwork and for particular artists. The first one is structured data. This is the most technical one, so I wanted to kind of list it first to get it out of the way. When a search engine's crawling your website, its number one goal is to try to learn as much as possible about that website, so that when someone goes in and types something into Google, they know what sites to recommend and how to rank those recommendations. So so you can imagine being a search engine and you're crawling the site, you might start to assume that these are artworks, and then you can maybe infer from that maybe you have, that you're on an artist website, but there's no way for the search engine to kind of clearly know for sure. Or here's another example that, is this an artist bio? Are these different artworks? One of the things that Art Cloud does is we explicitly tell every search engine what type of data this is. And so we tell them that this is an artwork, and that this is the artwork title, and this is the artwork date, the medium, and the dimensions, and the price. And by explicitly telling Google that, then they can feel more confident that they are interpreting the type of data correctly. And then we have found and have had a ton of success with this tactic, and we've been seeing that by leveraging that structured data, that sites perform much better than they would on a generic Squarespace site, for example. The next kind of big value prop is also pretty subtle, but it's about having a really clean URL. Google calls it a canonical URL, but that's just a technical term for like a human readable URL. And the idea is, like, how do you get the code out of your URL so that it's human readable? So sometimes you might notice if you go to a website, it will have the domain name here, and then maybe it says art, and then maybe it says like art ID equals 7489, or just some obscure identifier for that art. You can see that we've taken a lot of care in structuring these URLs so that we're talking about a piece of art, and then we have the title of the art, and then the artist name. And by putting that in every single URL and having it structured that way, Google's indexing each one of these pages, and it just gives it more affirmation that this is an artist name, this is the artwork, as well as giving you that kind of additional credit for those canonical URLs. Last thing I'll talk about with the super technical stuff, while we're looking at URLs, you'll see that there's a little padlock right here. About 3 years ago, Google started prioritizing any sites that had encryption, and about a year or two ago, they started even punishing sites that did not have it. This is the same level of encryption that you would see if you go log into your bank account. And this is kind of a broad initiative from all browsers, Safari, Chrome, Firefox, to make the internet a little bit more of a secure place. And so they are rewarding sites that wrap their URLs and their traffic with that encryption. So last kind of technical thing, but the good news is, using our cloud site, it would all of that's kind of taken care of for you automatically. Speed and performance, this kind of straddles both of those buckets that we were talking about earlier. It's more fun to talk about the user experience, so I'll start there. We've all had the experience of like loading a website that takes 9 seconds, and it's much less pleasurable than browsing a site that takes half a second to load each page. A lot of times we see art websites that have, the artist obviously wants to upload a really high resolution image of their artwork, but the website's not doing a very good job of like scaling that down for a mobile device or for a smaller screen. And that's a super important tactic to ensure that you have, and that ensures that your site loads quickly, both for your users, but then also Google is going to be measuring the load times, and that's a big factor in determining priority in search results. And again, the speed and performance is all managed by the Art Cloud engineers, which are an incredible team of smart, clever people. This next feature also kind of straddles both those buckets. It's mobile, the concept of mobile responsive design. It's no secret that more and more web traffic is mobile. So ensuring that when a user maybe sees you at a show and then Googles your name and from their phone on the Uber ride home, ensuring that your website loads quickly on a phone, but also responsively, will ensure that they're going to have a good experience and be able to interact with your site. And so you can see, this is the desktop version of this site, and all our cloud websites will kind of automatically scale down and present the work in a nice form. You can see to kind of extend Christine's food analogy, we have our hamburger here in your navigation, and then when you click on that, all your navigation will be kind of hidden behind that, so you can see how it kind of elegantly scales, depending on the device you're in, and that you'll get credit for both. Obviously, the user experience with that, but also search engines are going to prioritize mobile sites, and they are detecting that kind of thing. We already talked about the SSL and general security. All of this work that you're doing can feel invisible if you can't have some way of tracking it. So we also support a really seamless integration to Google Analytics, and even have some great knowledge base articles that kind of walk through the basics of those analytics to help you figure out how much traffic your site's getting, where that traffic's coming from, and even some cool integration. So if as inquiries come in or sales happen, we automatically post back to Google conversion events. It's another kind of technical term, but they would get automatically picked up by Google, and Google will actually start helping optimize if you ever decide to run Google ads, or you just want to look at what your conversion rates are for these pages. A lot of that's going to be set up for you automatically. So something that you might spend thousands of dollars hiring a consultant for will happen effortlessly for you, kind of right out of the box, should you dare to go explore the depths of Google Analytics. And the last one, we probably should have put this on Melanie's slide because it speaks a little bit more to the customer experience, and we'll do a different office hours specifically for the e-commerce functionality with artists and artist websites. But Apple Pay is a really great way to accelerate the e-commerce experience. So in talking and thinking a lot about that first bucket I talked about earlier, where you're trying to maximize the conversion percentage of users into some meaningful event for you, if your checkout process has a giant form where they need to type in their credit card and their address and more information, that takes some amount of work. And because that's a non-zero amount of work, there are going to be a non-zero number of people that see that and then don't complete it for some reason. They can't find their wallet, it's in their car, or they forgot this. Apple Pay is like a single click. You click it once, and then it fills in all that information, and you almost like accidentally buy things. We were playing around with it earlier today, working on some improvements, and I almost accidentally bought a $6,000 painting from some gallery. So it truly is that effortless, and having that button is just another way to reduce that friction between a user that's exploring your site and interested in kind of building up that excitement about a piece. It helps just prevent you from slowing any of that excitement down. So these are just a few of the things that we're doing behind the scenes to ensure that your site is optimal for both attracting visitors and then also retaining them and keeping them on the site long enough to convert to some level of value for you. And with all of that, we'd like to open the floor up to you guys. And if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them. And, oh yeah.
And I think you're still muted.
Okay. Thank you very much. I know a lot of thought went into this presentation, so I really appreciate it. I feel that a lot of my questions are so much simpler, and that I know that you're a great site. I know that you are secure. I appreciate you, Alex, telling us that, but that is the farthest thing from my mind. The thing that I struggle with is that there are so many aspects to art-cloud that I need help with very simple things. But just to sort of keep on the context of what we're talking about today, I am not going to add my website to the art-cloud one, partly because I'm not using it to sell, and I just really need to keep my work organized and be able to send out images. But I did work with my social media consultant to help me have a shop link on my personal website that takes me directly to art-cloud. So I want to thank you for making that possible too, because it gives artists a lot more flexibility. Now, what I have yet to, let's see, I can't remember. Has it been a year, Melanie, since I've been on art-cloud? But I have yet to sell anything. I've had a couple of nibbles. So I would love to, maybe in one of the office hours, to hear a little bit more about how to get people to come to art-cloud. And I mean, mostly what I'm really trying to do is I have built up my Instagram following to over 10,000 now. And I feel like that is a tipping point that drives people. I've had a lot through Instagram because I use Linktree to go to my website. And I do need to look and to see how many people have pressed the shop button, which I can do through Google Analytics. But I think that's one of the things that I would love to have more information about, is to drive people to the marketplace. And then my questions are really simple, like, how do I add the galleries that represent me to my marketplace? There's one on there, but I have another one that's actually linked to art-cloud that uses art-cloud as a gallery. So I spent I dicked around with it for about a half an hour trying to add it. And then I know I should have called support, but I thought, oh, maybe that's a question for office hours. But I also realized that you're doing a broad base of, so there might be the, like the 15 minutes for people that need to have a lot of simple questions answered. And I know that this is only, I think, the third office hour. So I know that, I mean, what do we have? Like, 1, 2, 3, 4 people who are staff that are using their staff time even in their after hours time. Some of
We're
them.
glad to do it, Anne. I want to hear
Yeah,
from
we
yeah, and I'll say on that note, next time you have a question, you better hit up support immediately before spending 30 minutes trying to
Yeah.
figure something out. Like I'll let Christine
Okay.
represent.
Okay.
We're there. We're there
Okay.
to help you.
Yeah, and I'll make a note. We'll follow up after this and help make sure that the other galleries you've added to your account populate on your ArtCloud marketplace. That's
The
just
galleries
a
would
simple
also
target for us.
have to be opted into the marketplace. So if they're not displaying inventory on the marketplace, they might not be showing up as a represented gallery. Yeah, and I think you primed us really nicely. And next month's topic is all going to be about e-commerce. So yeah, I will definitely spend, dedicate a lot more of the next month's office hours on e-commerce and how to, keep converting people, from viewers to collectors, and just knowing your work, I might say, you release a very small amount of work, I think on the marketplace, and that's something that I've observed on the gallery side, is that people are more likely to purchase something when they have more things to choose from. When you get a very narrow amount of inventory, I think people almost are waiting for the next batch to be released, or they don't want it to be considered kind of like the leftover pieces. So just one really quick tip is to kind of take note from kind of NFT marketing and how they, do these big drops, and they try to like time everything so that there's, an impetus to buy things now and create this excitement, around the shopping experience. But certainly we can talk more about that next month.
Well, yes, and thank you for that. But I also am more than happy to drive people to my art dealers, who I know 2 of them are on ArtCloud. So my sales are the leftovers. I don't have to tell the whole world.
Don't tell your collectors that. They also get to interact with you, which is the beauty.
I know they get to interact with me, but they also, if they want recent work, they have to go to the art dealers. And the work that I have is what is that the art dealers, it's not, because it's from 2018 or 2019, and so now it becomes part of my personal collection. So that's, but you're right, Melanie, there aren't a lot of those, because I don't want to compete with my art dealers. They don't like that.
Yeah, well, kind of, releasing smaller works or things that, would still be perceived as fresh inventory, new, exciting things, but that wouldn't fall into the realm of the things that were in competition with the gallery sales, so to speak.
Excellent idea. Yes.
Yeah. One other thing I'll just add real quickly, if you were to talk about individual pieces, and then I think you said you use Linktree, ensuring that you're linking back to the specific inventory detail page on the marketplace. So, for example, if you did, I'm not a huge social media person, but if you did like a Instagram live or a video or a reel, I'm not like whatever they're calling them these days, about a particular work, maybe like looking at it, talking about it, sharing, what the backstory behind it, and then said, make some call to action, to use Melanie's term earlier, to like, click my link in the Linktree bio to see, more work, or to inquire about it, or to purchase from it, and link back to the specific page on the marketplace, so there's as minimal friction as possible for anyone that was inspired by that kind of backstory. And if you've got, like you said, 10,000 followers, let's say that Instagram shows that video to 1/10 of them, so 1,000 people see it, and if 10% of those people are like it, then you're going to get 100 clicks, and if 10% of those people like it, then you're going to get 10 people that try to buy it. And so I think that's the kind of thought that goes into increasing e-commerce when you're doing it actively, and then over time, some tactics can start growing to enable inactive growth of that e-commerce, but might be a tactic to try.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
You're most welcome. William or Dorian, do you guys have any questions before we kind of wrap up today?
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the work y'all have put into this. And actually, I know one of your staff might already be a little familiar with me, but some while ago, I started in the process of posting some work, and it was something like a trial date, but then it got to a certain point, and I would just, to be honest, I would just totally lost. I'm not a computer person. I don't do social media. I retired from social work from a school system 3 years ago, 2017. And since then, I've just been focusing on my work and trying to see what outlets that I could use to get my work out to a wider audience. And that's basically how I came in contact with ArtCloud. And it's interesting, but technically, I'm not there. And I'm just being honest. And actually, I don't really have the drive to the social media. It's just part of me. It's not there. I do the emails and basic things like that. But this is a little above me. And I have a son that does this type of media, marketing in California, but he doesn't, he's not, with his workload or what have you, he's not interested in I'm doing. And so this is where I am.
How much work you put into raising him, make him feel guilty.
I like that suggestion. Yeah. I appreciate your feedback, William. I will admit that, the powerful thing about ArtCloud is, we're giving artists all of the tools that we've given our galleries that they run on. So, whereas I understand where you're coming from, it seems like sensory overload. But, you could, utilize the tools just like a professional, commercial art gallery. So, whether you want to get real deep into the nitty gritty or maybe consider, recruiting your son or hiring, an artist manager. But, you can use the least amount of tools or grow into the tools that are there, but appreciate that feedback.
Okay. I would give it a try.
And I'll put another plug in for our support team, reach out to, it's support@artcloud.com. We'll share that in the email wrap up, but yeah, they're always happy to, help field some questions, and maybe would point you, to our knowledge base, or we do have a YouTube page with other webinars that like our Getting Started webinar that Christine hosts as well.
Okay, one other question. What level, if someone like me is just not that much into the technical aspect, how far could you all take me as far as using ArtCloud to post my work? How far could you all take me as far as that? I would just need to get someone else to do this. How would that work?
Yeah, William, have you actually added inventory into the ArtCloud Manager?
Yes.
So that's the hardest part. If you can do that, then once you have a website live, that's the easiest way to keep your website updated. As Christine was illustrating, like you could add a new piece of inventory, add a tag, and then it's automatically going on to your website. So the initial building stages are one hurdle, but once you get there, you're just maintaining the database.
Okay.
And also, I would just say, just quickly, taking it in bite-sized pieces, like even just starting out with one page, you have your findable on the internet, and then just growing from there. It's the website is a living thing,
Good point.
Okay.
Yeah, we use the analogy baby steps a lot, and like internally when we're thinking about even building our product, is that like Christine said, it's a living thing. And I think a lot of people get this perfectionism trap where when you paint a painting and you call it done and sell it, it is done, and you largely cannot edit it for the rest of your life. And it's really hard. I think that a lot of artists and even galleries frame that perspective when they think about their website. And they think that it has to be perfect, and they get really overwhelmed or anxious about this concept of finitude. And I think that eventually you can understand it. Like eventually you get this new pattern of like oh, this is software and I can change it every day and every hour if I want to do it. Certainly no one does want to be changing the
Or
website
once
every
a
hour,
year.
but yeah, or yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or never. But it isn't like Christine said, start small with one page. And in fact, once you turn a website on with 𝗺cloud, it automatically creates like 4 or 5 base pages for you, a contact page, an artwork page. So like literally without even doing anything, you kind of have a website that all you have to do is launch, and then you can go in and actually make edits if you want to change formatting or content, things like that.
Okay.
Alex, if you'll go to the next slide, we have some of the links for 𝗺cloud artist websites that we can share with you afterwards. But these are some nice sites to get ideas. And then if you'll go to the last slide, these are also links for our knowledge base article, our artist Facebook group, and then our YouTube page. So thanks everyone for joining us. And
Yeah,
we hope
thank you guys very much. I appreciate your time.
Everybody.
next
Okay.
month.
You, thanks for being so great and tolerant and helpful. Thank you.
We
Yeah,
wouldn't be
thanks
here
for the
without you.
confidence.
Yeah,
Thanks for the
you.
insight and info. Thanks for all of the
Of course.
information.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
most welcome.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You guys take care.